So let me just begin and welcome you to my research on this listening of the RMS Lusitania, which was one of the fastest ocean liners built during the time of 1906 to about 1915. Well, let's get into this video and I'll see you on the other side. Now, let's get a bit of a perspective on first the construction and development of this great ocean liner. Well, the Lusitania and her sister ship, the Mauritania, were commissioned by Cunard, responding to the increasing competition from rival transatlantic passenger companies, particularly the German Deutsche Lloyd, or also short form for MDL, and the Hamburg American line Hamburg. The thing with these lines, they had larger, faster, and actually even more modern and luxurious ships than the Cunard, and were better placed. Starting from the German ports, they would capture lucrative trade in immigrants leaving Europe for North America. One of them, the NDL liner Kaiser Wilhelm de Grosse, captured the Blue Ripmad from Cunard's Campania in 1897 before the prize was taken in the 1900 by the Hamburg ship Deutsche Lloyd. NDL soon wrestled the prize back in 1903 with the new Kaiser Wilhelm II and Gropius Wilhelm. Cunard saw its passenger numbers affected as a result of the so-called Kaiser class ocean liners. So this prompted a man known as an American millionaire and businessman J.P. Morgan to invest in transatlantic shipping by creating a new company, the International Mercantile Marine, and in 1901 he purchased the British freight shipper Frederick Leyland and Corporations, and a controlling interest in the British passenger White Star Line, and folded them into the IMM. In 1902, IMM, NDL, and Hamburg entered into a community of interest to fix prices and divide among them the transatlantic trade. The partners also acquired a 51% stake in the Dutch Holland American line. IMM made offers to purchase Cunard, which along with French CGT was now its principal rival. This now prompted Cunard chairman Lloyd Infantclyde to approach the British government for assistance. First, and this was because he faced the one of them was the impending collapse of the British liner fleet and the consequent loss of national prestige, and also as well as the reserve of shipping for all purposes which it represented. So after combining these prospects, the British government agreed to help. They signed an agreement in June 1903, and the Cunard was given a loan of about 2.6 million euros to finance the two ships, which would be repaid over 20 years at an interest of about 2.75%. So let's move on to the design of this great ship. Cunard established a committee to design the design of these new ships, the Lusitania and the Mauritania. First, they went and tested this qualification they wanted on these ships, which was they wanted these ships to maintain a speed of 25 knots, which would require about 68,000 horsepower or 51,000 kilowatts. This would be the largest turbine set built so far. Had been only for the Dreadnought battleship and 41,000 horsepower for the Invincible class battle cruisers, which means that the engines would be of new and untested designs. So they tested this. So Cunard was persuaded by the Admiralty to set up a committee of marine professionals to look at its possible use of the new ocean liners. The turbine committee was convinced by this and other tests that turbines were the way forward and recommended on 24th March 1904 and that they should be used on the new express liner. In order to gain some experience to these engines, Cunard asked John Brown to fit turbines on Carmania, the second of a pair of 19,500 gross ton immediate liners under construction at the end. Carmania was completed in 1905, and this gave Cunard almost 2 years of experience before introducing the superliners in 1907. Well, Lusitania was designed by Leonard Pesquet and built by John Brown Company of Clydebank, Scotland. The ship's name, Lusitania, was taken from the Roman province on the west of the Iberian Peninsula, the region that is now southern Portugal, and also some parts of Spain. The name had also been used by a previous ship built in 1891 and wrecked in 1901, making the name from Lloyd's for Cunard Giant. Pesquet had built a large model of the proposed ship in 1902, showing a 3-funnel design, which would look to me weird to some of you. Until in 1904, a fourth funnel was implemented into the design so that it would be necessarily used to vent the exhaust from additional boilers fitted after steam turbines had been settled on as the power plant. The original plan called for 3 propellers, but this was altered to 4 because it was felt the necessary power could not be transmitted through just 3. 4 turbines would drive 4 separate propellers with additional reversing turbines to drive the 2 inboard shafts only. The outboard turbines operated at high pressure, the exhaust steam then passing to those inboard at relatively low pressure. The propellers were driven directly by the turbines for sufficiently robust gearbox had not yet been developed and became available in only 1916. Instead, the turbines had to be designed to run at a much lower speed than those normally accepted as being optimal. Thus, the efficiency of the turbines installed was less at low speeds than a conventional reciprocating steam engine, but significantly better when the engines were run at high speed, as was usually the case for an express liner. The ship was fitted with 23 double-ended and 2 single-ended boilers, which fitted the forward spaces where the ship narrowed, operating at a maximum of 195 psi and 192 individual furnaces. Work continued to refine the hull shape was conducted in the Admiralty experimental tanker Asla Gosport. As a result of the experiments, the beam of the ship was increased by 10 feet over that initially intended to improve stability. The hull immediately in front of the rudder and the balanced rudder itself followed naval design practice to improve the vessel's turning response. The Admiralty contract required that all machinery be below the waterline where it was considered to be better protected from gunfire, and the aft third of the ship below water was used to house the turbines, the steering motor, and fourth, 375 kilowatt steam driven turbo generators. The central half contained 4 boiler rooms, with the remaining space at the forward end of the ship being reserved for cargo and other storage. Coal bunkers were placed along the length of the ship outboard of the boiler rooms, with a large transverse bunker immediately in front of that forward number 1 boiler room. Apart from convenience ready for use, the coal was considered to provide added protection for the central spaces against attack. At the very front were chain lockers for the huge anchor chains and ballast tanks to adjust the ship's trim. The hull space was divided into 12 watertight compartments, any two which could be flooded without risk of the ship sinking, connected by 35 hydraulically operated watertight doors. A critical flaw in the arrangement of the watertight compartment was that sliding doors to the coal bunkers needed to be opened to provide constant feed of coal whilst the ship was operating, and closing this in emergency conditions could be problematic. The ship had a double bottom with the space between divided into separate watertight cells. The ship's exceptional height was due to the 6 decks of passenger accommodation above the waterline compared to the customary 4 decks in existing liners. Heightened stylish steel was used for ship splitting as opposed to the more conventional mild steel. This allowed a reduction in plate thickness, reducing weight but still providing 26% greater strength than other liners. Both Lusitania and Mauritania were fitted with a wireless telegraph, electric lighting, electric fits, sumptuous interiors, and the early form of air conditioning. Let's move on to the next part. Let's move on to the last few parts of the few parts left. Construction and trials. Lusitania's keel was laid at John Brown Current Bank and as yard number 367 on 17th August 1904. Lloyd Inverclyde hammering home the first rivet. Cunard nicknamed her the Scottish ship in contrast to Mauritania, whose contract went to Swan Hunter in England. The ship was launched on 7th June 1906, 8 weeks later than planned due to labor strikes and 8 months after Lloyd Inverclyde's death. Princess Louise was invited to name the ship but could not attend, so the honor fell to Inverclyde's widow, Mary. The launch was attended by 600 invited guests and thousands of spectators. 1,000 tons of drag chains were attached to the hull by temporary links to slow it once it entered the water. The wooden supporting structure was held back by cables so that once the ship entered it would slip forward out of its supports. 6 tugs were on hand to capture the hull and move it to the fitting out berth. Testing of the ship's engine took place in June 1907 prior to full trial schedule, and as a primary cruise of builders was arranged on 27th July with representatives of Cunard, the Admiralty, the Board of Trade, and John Brown on board. The ship achieved speed of 25.6 knots at Skelmoyer, with turbines running at 194 revolutions per minute, producing 76,000 horsepower. At high speeds, the ship was found to suffer such vibrations at the stern as to render the second-class accommodation uninhabitable. VIP invited guests now came on board for a 2-day shakedown cruise, during which the ship was tested at a continuous running speed of 15, 18, and 21 knots, but not to a maximum speed. On 29th July, the guests departed and 3 days full trials commenced. The ship traveled 4 times between Coursewyre Light off Scotland to Longship Light off Cornwall at 23 and 25 knots. Over 300 miles at an average speed of 25.4 knots was achieved, comfortably greater than the 24 knots required under the Admiralty contract. The ship could stop in 4 minutes in 3/4 of a mile, starting from 23 knots at 166 p.m. She achieved a speed of 26 knots over a measure of a mile loaded to a draught of 33 feet. It managed 26.5 knots over a 60-mile course. At 180 revolutions, a turning test was conducted and the ship performed a complete circle of radius 1,000 yards in 50 seconds. The radar required 20 seconds to be turned hard to 35 degrees. The vibrations was determined to be caused by interference between the wake of the outer propellers and the inner, and became worse when turning. At high speeds, the vibration frequently resonated with the ship's stern, making the waters worse. The solution was to add in turn stiffening to the stern, but this necessitated gutting the second class areas and then rebuilding them. We move to another part, the comparison with the Olympic class. The Olympic class consisted of the White Star Lines, ocean liners, which included Titanic, Olympic, and also the Britannic. But then there was a difference between the Olympic class and the Cunard class of liners. The Olympic class had 13-meter longer ships than both the Lusitania and Mauritania, alongside had been in service for several years before the Olympic. Titanic and Britannic were ready in the North Atlantic line. Although significantly faster than the Olympic class, the speed of Cunard's vessels was not sufficient to allow the line to run a weekly 2-ship transatlantic service from each side of the Atlantic. A third ship was needed for weekly service, and in response to White Star's announced plans to build the 3 ships, Cunard ordered a third ship, Aquitania. Like Olympic, Aquitania had a lower service speed, but was a larger and more luxurious vessel. But due to the increased size, the Olympic class liners could offer many more amenities than Lusitania and Mauritania. They had spacious places including Turkish baths, gymnasiums, courses, larger reception rooms, a la carte restaurants separate from the dining saloons, and many more staterooms with private bathroom facilities. Heavy vibrations as a byproduct of the four steam turbines in Lusitania and Mauritania would plague both ships throughout their voyages. And Lusitania sailed at a top speed. Their resultant vibrations were so severe that second and third class sections of the ships could become uninhabitable. In contrast, the Olympic class liners used two traditional reciprocating engines and one turbine for the central propeller, which greatly reduced vibration. But because of their greater tonnage, the Olympic class liners were also more stable at sea and less prone to rolling. The vessels of the Olympic class also differed from Lusitania and Mauritania in which they were compartmented below the waterline. The White Star vessels were divided by transverse watertight bulkheads, while Lusitania also had transverse bulkheads, but it also had longitudinal bulkheads running along the ship on each side between the boiler and engine rooms, and they called bunkers at the outside of the vessel. British Commission had investigated the sinking of the Titanic in 1912. Had testimony on the flooding of coal bunkers lying outside longitudinal bulkheads being of considerable length when flooded. This would increase the ship's length and make the lowering of boats on the other side impracticable. And this was precisely what happened with Lusitania. The ship's stability was insufficient for the bulkhead arrangements used. Lusitania did not carry enough lifeboats for all her passengers, officers, and crew on board at the time of her maiden voyage, carrying four lifeboats fewer than Titanic could carry. This was a common practice for large passenger ships at the time, since they believed in busy shipping lanes. Help would always be nearby, and the few boats available would be adequate to ferry all aboard to rescue ships before sinking. After Titanic sank, Lusitania and Mauritania were equipped with 6 Klinger-built wooden boats under davits, making a total of 22 boats rigged with davits. The rest of her lifeboat